All right, I am recording now. Just setting up my timer and we'll start. Hey everyone, thanks for coming out to my TED Talk. This is for my professional speaking course, PCM 340. Hello to Dr. Raymond for when you join us eventually. As an educational interpreter, I realized that when I started art working, that learning how to interact with teachers was not something that we were taught for any of us. I showed up on the first day and I relied on all of your expertise on how to interact and team with a teacher. Part of our course with PCM 340 was about working with others. And when it came to choosing my presentation, I wanted to deliberately to narrow that topic down on how to work with teachers, since that was an area that I was greatly lacking in understanding. So my presentation is called Working Alongside Teachers as Educational Interpreters, and it's based on the thesis of an interpreter who worked for 9 years as an educational interpreter named Brittany C. Legal. She completed her thesis for the Western Oregon University and presented her findings in 2019. She too wanted to know how to have a long-standing professional relationship working alongside teachers as well as an educational interpreter. So she conducted her research with 63 participants in the Nevada Clark County schools that had deaf and hard of hearing programs. She conducted an online survey and 37 teachers and 26 interpreters responded. What she learned from their responses is the importance of having a team between educational interpreters and teachers. She took all that information, their responses, and then created suggestions on how we can work as a team. And she was using relational theory presented by Dr. Joyce Fletcher. And I will talk a little bit about what that means in a bit. So for her survey, again with 37 teachers and 26 interpreters, she found some very significant things. One, out of the 37 teachers that said they understood, or the 37 teachers that were being interviewed, 27 said they were familiar with what our role is as interpreters. But when prompted and prodded and for further description of what that understanding is, it was clear that only 10 of those 27 actually knew what we do. 100% of interpreters that responded made it pretty clear that the problem with teachers understanding our role is partially due to us as educational interpreters. While 100% when they meet a teacher will be like, "Hi, my name is so-and-so and I'm an interpreter," it stops a lot of the time at that. They found that less than 50% of interpreters fully explain what their role is to a teacher. And out of the interpreters interviewed, only one actually mentioned teaming with a teacher, and that is part of their introduction. Another finding that was significant was the teachers, when asked about how the relationships with the interpreter were formed, 53% said that it was just spontaneous. It just happened over time. There was no plan to have a relationship, professional working relationship. And almost all teachers recognize the importance of us having a team relationship with them. So from all that information with the survey, it became clear knowledge of our role is muddled and confusing for a lot of teachers. One teacher said that they didn't understand why when we interact with one student, our role looks like this, but when we have a second student, it looks completely different. They didn't understand that we make adaptations based upon the student's IEP. And then they said that as a whole, the goal of teaming was not being actively pursued, even though it is a mutual desire for both parties, and it benefits not just teachers, interpreters, and the deaf and hard of hearing student, but their hearing peers. I'll admit that I was never that great at explaining what my role is as an interpreter. What I did find was this excellent resource on classroominterpreting.org. This is one of the guides that is published by the Clare Center for Gallaudet. They have guides on how to work with teachers, how to work with interpreters, and what our roles are, what the teachers' roles are, and also what students' roles are. It's very, very excellent, in-depth information, but also very succinct and easy to pass out to a teacher that you're meeting, or even for some of our students, perhaps in the future, they would benefit from this. So this is just a picture of the guide for teachers. So relational theory by Joyce Fletcher was developed in 1994, and it suggests that each person has a unique perspective on the world, and they have a unique knowledge base. Understanding how we are each special is pivotal in helping us work together more efficiently. There are 4 aspects of relational theory. We have creating a team, we have achieving together, mutual empowerment, and then preserving the team relationship. So we'll start with creating the team. The important thing is creating an environment for both the teacher and the interpreter to flourish in, as well as the students. We come to that by admitting that we share a common goal. That common goal is providing access and assisting the student in pursuing their education. Both the teacher and interpreter share that together, and it needs to be said that we are working together for a common goal and can collaborate together. It is important that we do have regular meetings together as a team. We are discussing what the teacher's objectives are for the lessons. The student may succeed in certain aspects of the classroom and maybe struggle in some of the others. And the interpreter is often the one that notices it the most. And it's up to us to collaborate with our team and inform them of those gains and losses, so to speak. If you remember in the survey, it said, actually, no, I skipped that in the survey. So one of the things that came up in the survey was that the majority of interpreters only 50% of the time asked for prep material, according to the teachers that were interviewed, which is not a great thing when you're trying to work together as a team. So to establish a better environment, we need to ask for prep materials consistently. Second part of relational theory, as applies to interpreting as in the educational setting, is we as professionals are trying to grow together. We have to understand each other's roles very clearly and respect what each other has to bring. Teachers have their own training, interpreters have extensive training as well, and ongoing training at that. It's important that we talk to each other, express curiosity about each other's perspectives and unique backgrounds. And also, I know I struggle with this myself as a new interpreter, is you need to view yourself as an equal and talk to them as an equal. It's hard for me to not see a teacher as being higher up in the hierarchy, but we cannot be effective as a team if we view ourselves as less than them. The third aspect of relational theory is being mutually empowering. Neither of us succeed alone. To benefit the student best, we need to accomplish our goals together. And it's not a competition. If I do really well one day with my interpreting, it's not that I succeeded over the teacher. And if we want to work together effectively, we need to build up our teammates, the teachers, and express our desire for them to succeed and effectively reach the students in their classroom. And it's also important that we are inspired by the work that they bring, their skill set, and for them to feel that way equally about us. Because we're both unique in what we know, our knowledge base, and the skills that we're bringing. Lastly, it's how to preserve a team. One thing I've noticed in the culture surrounding teachers is how often they are expected to spend their own money, work outside of their paid hours, and just do it for the sake of the children. It's not necessarily a healthy cultural attitude towards teachers, but it might explain sometimes where they're coming from in their expectations of what we do as interpreters. Part of maintaining that team relationship is knowing what our roles are individually and doing what is necessary for those roles to be fulfilled in accomplishing our goal of providing accessibility in the classroom. And Legal is also suggesting that we consider prioritizing the needs of the student in the classroom over our individual needs. Legal makes a really amazing chart here, tips for working as a team, where she applies all four parts of relational theory and what it would look like in the classroom for a teacher, interpreter, and then working together. This is just the top part. There is a second part that I didn't include. But what's so nice about it is it's easy to print off, and it could be a simple little handout for introducing yourself or bringing to the first introductory discussions you have with the teacher. I included, this is from the thesis, and I have both references for the thesis and the Clare Center guide to working with interpreters listed in the references. So ultimately, the results of effective teaming is we improve the accessibility for deaf and hard of hearing students. We improve their access to their education. There's improvement on our end as interpreters. When we are engaged as a team, we're getting the proper support we need from the teacher. Our students are getting the information they need, and it's elevating our interpreting skills. We're not going into it cold with feeling like we're on our own. There's mutual support there. It also benefits the teacher too. They can utilize us to moderate how things are going in the classroom. They can look at us. Are we looking confused while we're interpreting? Maybe the teacher needs to adjust what the content that they're portraying. Maybe they need to make some points clearer than others, reiterate some things. They can also use us as knowing to find stopping points in their presentations. And that's not just beneficial for us and our students, but also all the students, because perhaps they're just as confused, or maybe they need a pause too to absorb the information. We're also giving them the knowledge that they may have they might not know anything about what it's like to have a deaf student. It might be their first deaf student. And we're a wonderful resource for providing them that information and what it's like. We can provide them with information about culture, language, social development, and it's important that they recognize what we bring to the table. It's also great for problem-solving skills between two adults. We're not always going to agree on what's the best way of going forward, but by being a team, we can at least bring up our disagreements and find a mutual solution that benefits the student. Another effective result of teaming is also for non-deaf and hard of hearing students. When we are working together with teachers properly, they get to see how to effectively utilize an interpreter in the classroom. They're able to fully interact with their deaf and hard of hearing peers. And they're also seeing what it's like for two adults to work together, which I think is very important in this day and age. So in summary, we have learned that it is imperative that we team with our teaching teachers so that we can effectively reach our common goal of providing accessibility and a top-notch education for deaf and hard of hearing students. But there is multiple benefits, as I previously stated, to it. And by applying relational theory, we have some tips on how to go forward that in the future. These are the references I mentioned. Again, that was for the Clare Center with Gallaudet. I found that information also on classroominterpreting.org. And then Legal's thesis, too, which I recommend reading if you have time for 84 pages. Thank you very much for attending. I appreciate you all. Thank you.